Coming up next, we have Gary Zimmerman from the Wwii store here in Torrance, California. Stay tuned. Don't go away. Hello, welcome to our show. I'm Leah Scott Price, and we have Gary Zimmerman and Christopher from the Wwii store here in Torrance. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
And where exactly is your store located in Torrance?
Well, we're in the old downtown section of Torrance on Marcelina Avenue.
Wonderful. And how did you all get started with this?
Well, I needed a place for all the books that I amassed on World War II, and so I decided to open up a store to put them in.
Basically, a lot of World War II stuff. I mean, is it just World War II stuff, or does it go to
just World War II, mainly. I try to stick to the main theme rather than get distracted.
Where do you get your supplies?
Most of it just comes from people walking in the front door and asking me if I buy or sell or trade material.
All right. And do they come from all over the place, other cities?
Yeah. Yeah, all over. Local, out of state. Word's getting around. We've been there 5 years, so little by little, more and more people are coming in.
Wonderful. Okay.
So it's kind of fun. You never know what's going to come in.
That's great. And do you, this your, Christopher, do you run the store with your
Sometimes.
parents? And are you on the internet?
We have an email address. We're going to get a website up by the end of the year, hopefully.
Okay, that's great. And do you get a lot of email requests?
Not too much. I'm not very good at checking my email. We're working on the internet communications.
Do you get any international requests, or are they just local?
No, I've had a few calls from England and France, and I've had a lot of customers come in that are already doing shows in LA that stop by the store.
Do you get mostly collectors or just people interested in World War II, or it's a variety?
It's a variety. Mainly my customers are just run-of-the-mill people who just see the store and say, wow, you know, I never saw a store like that.
Right.
And come in.
So do you find out that when people come in and they just look around, all of a sudden they get hooked on history, maybe?
Yeah, pretty much. They're pretty much amazed at what they see. It's like a time capsule. It's like a museum, a hands-on museum that you can buy stuff in.
Right. Do you get many kids, perhaps? A lot of customers are kids?
I do. A lot of my customers are Christopher's age, and they know their stuff.
Really?
They know what they're talking about.
Wow. Do they do it for school projects, maybe? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of school projects?
For like varieties, talent shows maybe.
Great. Do they do maybe some research of history of World War II?
Probably for history projects.
Great.
The B-24 Liberator could fly farther, faster, higher, and take more punishment than any other aircraft during World War II. With a 2,750-gallon fuel tank, missions were generally in the order of 1,500 miles range, or as much as nearly 2,000 miles. The common bomb load consisted of 10 500-pound bombs, or conversely, 5 1,000-pounders. These were all against heavily defended targets. In Europe, this was between 18 to 28,000 feet altitude. Now in the Pacific, the altitudes were often quite lower. Now these high altitude missions over Europe, these cabins here were not pressurized. This meant oxygen masks for the crewmen and heavy clothing, as the temperatures aboard these aircraft could reach up to 30 degrees below zero. The B-17 Flying Fortress, powered by 4 1,200 horsepower engines with a crew complement of 10, a 1,700-gallon fuel tank would produce a range of 1,850 miles. And with a gross weight of 65,000 pounds, with an extended so-called Tokyo tank, this could raise the capacity to 3,630 gallons. And the service ceiling was at 36,000 feet, with a bomb load of 8,000 pounds. With external racks, the bomb load could be as high as 17,600 pounds. Now, 12,732 of these venerable aircraft were produced by the war's end.
Why World War II? Why?
Well, I'm fascinated with World War II. My dad was in World War II, and it's still current history. I mean, it's still first-generation accounts, first-hand accounts of the things that happened. I mean, these guys are still alive. They'll be alive for another 10 or 20 years, maybe. So it's not old history. It's still living history. You can talk to the guys that were still there, and I do on a daily basis, so it's kind of fun. They're getting old, but they can still remember, like it was yesterday, what happened to them on those islands and through Europe.
And do you get any requests from maybe the film industry?
I've had some people come in, set designers that have bought objects, I think, for the sets and whatnot. But as far as the uniforms and artifacts, they really have the stuff.
Really?
Because they bought a lot of it right after the war, and it's real merchandise. It's real military stuff. So they have the stuff I'd like to have.
And do you help them out with the accuracy of a scene that they're doing, or do they talk about what they need?
I could. They have their own experts. In fact, an expert that I use on a daily basis, he works for the studios. And that's what he is. He's a coordinator. So I call him on a daily basis. I was just talking to him 20 minutes ago about something.
Now, do you find they're mostly costumes, or are they props that the film industry looks for?
Mostly they have real stuff. I mean, they picked it up for nothing in the 40s or during the war. So it's real stuff, and it's stamped Warner Brothers and whatnot.
Wow.
But it's real stuff. In fact, I just got about 6 parachutes from the 1942 movie Burma Objective, with the actors' names on them, and RKO Studios.
So are there any local reenactments, perhaps, that
Yeah, there's a lot
reenactors
of
at your
groups.
store?
There's a lot of groups you can get into. I belong to the 442nd Armored Group. There's all kinds of, the 82nd has a group, 82nd Airborne. 32nd Division has a reenactment group. There's plenty of groups to get into.
And what do they do? Give us an example of, what kind of reenactment would they do? Would they do it for maybe local community events? Or do they do it on just a purely hobby
Mainly it's
basis?
for our own enjoyment. We pick a battle, we research it, and then we go out and do it. And we invite a German reenactment group, and we go battle them, and usually we win.
Well, we always have to win.
Yes.
What's the most popular item that's been requested from your store?
That is the most popular question ever asked me. What sells the most? I've got a variety of stuff in there, and everybody wants something different. What sells a lot is the medals, because people my age are looking for their father's decorations and whatnot to put in shadow boxes.
And you have some medals too. You want to show us what they are?
Bronze Star.
For valor?
For valor. This is
Legion of Merit?
Legion of Merit, and this is a
Distinguished Service Cross.
And the one down there?
Oh, this is what the soldier probably used or carried sometimes, and
Qualification badges.
what he was qualified to carry.
Oh, so what does it say specifically? Like, give us an example.
Like a BAR, a pistol, or like a he could have been on coast artillery and other stuff.
So the weapons that he's qualified to carry?
Exactly, yeah.
Ah.
So Christopher is a well-qualified commando here. Bayonet, pistol, machine gun, hand grenade,
Wow.
artillery.
So how would a typical soldier carry all that artillery with him?
Well, the World War II soldier was weighted down just like today's soldier is, with about 70 pounds or so of equipment.
Wow.
So besides his 10-pound M1 Garand, he would have his pack and then usually some ammo or or something else. And then when you go up on the front line, you drop your pack and your overcoat and whatnot, and you get up there with basically a rifle and some water and some ammo.
We're talking about the WW2 store here in Torrance, and we'll be right back.
The B-29 Super Fortress. And this airplane had a number of new features. Among them, 2 pressurized chambers for the crewmen with an interconnecting pressurized tunnel. Now, some guns on there, some of the automatic firing guns for anti-aircraft, could be fired by remote control, thus removing the crewmen from these dangerous positions within these gun emplacements. Now, 3,970 of these aircraft were built by the war's end. Primarily utilized in the Pacific, as many as 1,000 have been used to attack Tokyo alone at one time. Now, gross weight was 140,000 pounds, and a ceiling of 31,850 feet. Now, the Soviet Design Bureau Tupolev, remember, they were our allies at that time, had a copy of this aircraft known as the Tu-4. Now, range was 5,830 miles. Its engines were 4 2,200 horsepower Wright double cyclones. With a crew complement of 10, this aircraft will be known forever in history. One of them, named the Enola Gay, on the 6th of August 1945, delivered the first atomic bomb used in an actual theater of war. 3 days later, another such weapon was used on the city of Nagasaki, soon bringing about the end of the Pacific theater.
Attention on deck. We're back with Gary Zimmerman and Christopher from the WW2 store. And today you're going to show us some of the medals that you brought with you today.
Yeah, this is just an example of one customer's father's service record. So we sent away for his DD-214 to the National Records Center in St. Louis, and we got some information back. And this is the result of what we found to be in his service jacket. He was in the 3rd and 4th Marines, and he saw service through the Second World War and the Korean War.
Okay, and could you tell us a little bit about the maybe the most used medals that are awarded, or are these all common, or is there some very special medals?
Most of these are campaign medals. The Marine Corps doesn't give medals out too often. So most of these are service medals. This here, obviously, is the Purple Heart given for being wounded in action. This is the Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal, which is also a little special. These are campaign medals. This is before, if he was enlisted before Pearl Harbor, American defense. This is after Pearl Harbor, American campaign. He went to the Pacific during World War II, Pacific Campaign Medal, World War II Victory Medal. Like I said, Marine Corps Good Conduct, occupation. So he stayed in the service. So he was on occupation duty in the Far East. And then we get into Korea Service Medal, Korean War Medal, and National Defense.
Great, and what is this pin right here?
Marine Corps TITAC. Something he picked up at the PX. So I always encourage something personal, if you have it, to put in these shadow boxes, and preferably a picture of the gentleman in uniform. And this is a permanent record usually for the family to keep. And it's a good idea if there's more than one sibling, that everybody wants a set. Then they come to me and say, you know, I need 3 shadow boxes. Everybody wants one.
Right. So you get a lot of requests for shadow boxes at
Yeah.
your store.
And especially, you know, they're getting older now and they really appreciate this kind of stuff.
What are one of the items, or maybe an item specifically in your store that has the most value? It could be sentimental or it could be price-wise.
Well, sentimental, that could mean a lot of things to a lot of people, and it usually does. Different things hit different people. I have a lot of different things in the store that are sentimental to only one person. Most valuable, an example would be these AN6530 flight goggles. These are like getting extremely scarce. These were Navy and Marine Corps fighter pilot goggles. And these happen to be in nice condition. So you're seeing less and less of these kind of artifacts because there was less of them. And to be in this condition is kind of rare.
That's really cool.
Yeah, these are nice.
And what is are you allowed to say the value? Would you like to say the value of it?
Yeah, these are, actually I just sold these. These were like $450.
Wow, boy, yeah.
But they're in mint condition, and I have an interchangeable pair of green lenses for them,
Really?
which were hard to find.
Wow,
But this stuff can be found if you look hard enough.
that's great. You get a lot of requests for those?
Yeah, these are very popular, as well as a lot of the Air Corps stuff. The Air Corps guys always did get the glamour, and it's still true today. Everybody wants stuff from the Air Corps.
Wow.
So flight jackets, parachutes, still a popular theater of war.
That's great.
During the time of the war in the 1940s, when few women worked, as the men took up arms, it was left to many of the women to pick up the blow torches, the drill presses, and the rivet guns to keep the supply of military apparatus flowing from many of the nation's factories. Here in the Southland, at many of the defense plants that we have here, it was former actor Ronald Reagan, then Captain Ronald Reagan, who instructed one of the Army photographers, a young private by the name of David Conover, to focus his lens and his attention on some of the women war workers in the factories throughout here in the Southland. Conover arrived at the company radio plane in Burbank, then under contract to produce radio-controlled drones to be used for target practice training for the military personnel. And there he photographed many of the young women with their coveralls on. Eventually, he focused on one very attractive 19-year-old, a young wavy-haired brunette, as she was applying banana oil to some of the skins of these drone aircraft. He had her taken aside and asked if she would model for him extensively, and asked if she had a sweater. She had one in her car, and she modeled additionally in the parking lot during her lunch break. Eventually, this young woman would be seen on the cover of a multitude of magazines throughout the 40s. At one point, she used a hair care product solution to straighten her hair, and it turned it blonde. And blonde it would remain for what would become a rather illustrious career. This was none other than Marilyn Monroe.
I see you brought some interesting items from your store and happen to be wearing one of them. So what I'm going to do right now is ask you to explain a few things. And let's start with the shovel. Of course, I call it a shovel, but there's a different term for it.
That'd be your entrenching tool.
Okay.
Every man was issued one, and you'd certainly want to keep it on you. That's what you dug your foxhole with. And a latrine, but the foxhole was more important and would double under fire as a latrine because you weren't getting out of that foxhole unless you were told to.
So this was mandatory for
Yeah.
them to carry it around.
Yeah, you'd want to have this at all times.
Okay, and you had other items here?
Actually, the goggles were in there.
Okay.
This is just another example of a shadow box. This was the 2nd Marine Corps Division and the 5th Marines, and then the gentleman's collar devices and cap device. And these are some rare Marine Corps patches, the Iceland Marine Detachment.
Okay.
And keep in mind, the Marines were always a small force, and they usually weren't sent out in quantity to these isolated areas. They were mainly attached to the Navy. They're part of the Navy.
Great. All right. And let's see, we have a rifle here.
That's a British...
And hopefully it's not loaded.
No, there's no clip in that. That's a British Enfield 303, bolt action. So every time you fired, you had to pull the bolt back, inject the shell, fire, bring the bolt back. Whereas our M1 Garand was automatic gas fed, so it held 8 rounds. So as fast as you pulled that trigger, semi-automatic, you'd fire off 8 shots. And just like you heard in the movies, that last round, the clip would fly out and you heard that cling, and then the enemy knew you were out of shells.
Okay. How many pounds does this weigh?
This is about 8 pounds. The Garand was almost 10 pounds loaded.
So you added that to your soldier's gear. You got some pretty heavy
Yeah, very
artillery.
heavy. Yeah.
Okay. And the helmet.
That's a flak helmet from like a bomber. A bomber crewman would wear that. Maybe a waist gunner or something.
Right.
So more protection around the ears, and also
so
he
it's
could
got
have
these little flaps here.
yeah, he could have headphones underneath there.
So these are kind of protective wear. So these would go over the ears.
Yeah.
And then you take the rifle. And I think I am ready to go. What do you think?
In 1943, the Maritime Commission embarked on a program to replace the older Liberty cargo vessels with a newer, faster ship that will become known as the Victory ship. These ships have a standardized steel hull of up to 445 feet in length and about 63 feet in width. The Victory ship could carry 4,555 pounds of cargo. One of the vessels that we are privileged to have here in the South Bay is the Lane Victory. Launched on the 31st of May 1945, it soon joined service in the closing stages of the war. Later, it would see service in Korea and even in Vietnam. In 1982, the Merchant Marine Veterans of World War II Society commissioned efforts to begin a restoration project of this ship. In 1989, it was towed to San Pedro. Now, the Lane Victory is a living museum, birthed in San Pedro, and can be visited by people pretty much throughout the week and weekends. And several times a year during the summer, anyone, for a small fee to support the museum, can take a cruise on this vessel and experience a mock aviation battle.
So, okay, and let's see, how about this cap down here? It's okay, I'll hang on to this.
Serviceman's Class A cap, enlisted. All the enlisted men's devices were on a round disc like this, and the officer's insignia was always cut out standing freestanding without the round background.
Okay.
That's how you can tell.
Oh, wonderful. Now, we're going to try the parachute.
Ah.
Parachute, this big item here. So I'm going to go reach in, grab it. Oh dear, this is heavy. So, oops. Now, how would this go on?
So
This way.
this is a back chute for a bomber pilot.
Oh my God. All right, now, I think I'm ready to go now. I'll see you on the ground. Yeah, this is pretty heavy. How much would a typical parachute?
How much does it weigh?
How much would it weigh?
About 25 pounds, but it's not the weight, it's the bulk.
It's the bulk. Okay.
You could not wear this in a plane and still function as a gunner and whatnot. So they would keep them by the doorways, and it was not a very good system because that's why a lot of guys didn't get out of the plane with a chute on, because they could not wear these and still work.
Right.
Not for 8 hours.
And how did you come about getting one of these?
I see very few of these.
I can see it's not been used.
these are very rare, but someone gave me a call and said he knew where there was like 6 boxes of them. So I get stuff like that. So now I have a supply of parachutes.
Authentic parachute here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your really exciting items with us. I mean, this is really great history right here. At ease. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show featuring Gary Zimmerman and Christopher from the WW2 store here in Torrance. And today we're going to talk about your costume, Christopher. Could you describe it for us?
This is
Enlisted man's
enlisted
serge wool fighting suit, also used as a Class A uniform. So he could be dressed out in this for inspection, and they would also fight in this.
And you were talking earlier about, before the show, about how most men were actually
Small, a lot
Christopher's
smaller,
size.
yeah. Yeah, I did not have to modify this very much to fit him. Just cut some inches off the cuffs and off the hem, and he was ready to go. A lot of guys weren't much bigger than him in World War II. 17, 18 years old, 120, 130 pounds soaking wet, and off they went to war. Sizes 36, 38s, and 40s mainly.
Really? So this is a typical size that you would have in your store?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. And could you take off the coat and show me the full uniform, please? That's great. All right. So this is a typical size then?
Yeah, maybe a little bit bigger, but this is average. Yeah.
Okay. And could you describe your uniform as well?
Mine would be a little bit more rare. This is a Marine Corps paratrooper, second lieutenant. So not many of these guys, and so this is kind of a rare find, this uniform, especially in a size that I could fit into.
Really? And it comes with a hat as well? So.
Yeah. This is your service cap, overseas cap, compared to your Class A dress uniform cap, which is the one with the leather visor on it.
Okay. And what am I wearing?
That would be the ladies' cut. What do you got there? First class petty officer, chief petty officer.
Great. All right.
Pacific Campaign, American Campaign ribbons. So you've seen some action.
I have seen some action.
You're also out of uniform, sailor with no white shirt on.
And they would come with a tie.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, got it. All right. Okay. Well, that wraps up our show, and thank you so much for being with us and for sharing the items and the history of your store. And we are dedicating this program to those who have served and to those that are currently serving. Thank you again for coming.
Thanks very much.
It
was a pleasure.